Hey, everybody, and welcome to our next session in our series of how to lead when you're not in charge. How to lead whenever you're in a situation where you're not the boss. Maybe you're the person that doesn't have the title. You're not a manager, you're not a team leader, you're not a director, but you find yourself in a situation where you want to be able to increase your influence. You want to be able to lead. And so if you've ever found yourself in a situation where you want to grow as a leader, you want to be a better leader, you want to have more influence, you want to have more of an impact on the outcomes that you can control when it comes to your own career journey, and that you can contribute to your team as together you work to contribute whatever it is you're working on within your organization. So if you've ever wanted to know, how can I lead even though I'm not in charge? How can I get my idea heard? How can I get the space to be able to actually execute on my idea? How can I help contribute in a way that'll help make our team better? But now I don't have the space to be able to do that. So if you've ever found yourself in a situation like that, then you are in the right place. And I am super excited about today because we are going to talk about what I think is the number one tool that you can use to lead yourself. And we've talked in our journey together that one of the ways that you can lead when you're not in charge is to lead yourself first, is to invest in you, is to make sure that you are growing, that you are healthy, is to make sure that you are developing skills like emotional intelligence to be able to more effectively expand the influence that you have. And it's something that you can do today, whether you're the boss or not. You can invest in leading yourself first. And I'm excited because today we're going to talk about a tool that I think for some of you, it could be a breakthrough moment. And I think about how I've used this tool in my personal life and the impact that it's had on me as a leader. It has helped me become a better leader. It has helped me develop my emotional intelligence skills. It's helped me actually change behaviors that were diminishing my influence as a leader. And so for some of you, I believe today's the day. And if you drive this to action, if you choose to implement what we're going to talk about today, if you choose to go on this journey and you choose to invest in yourself, then this can be a breakthrough moment. And it can be a moment where you look back and you see that this was a catalyst for you to be able to expand your influence. And so today we're going to talk about the number one tool you can use to lead yourself and to lead yourself first and well. So let me share my screen. Let me do this and let me do this and share, and we'll go into presentation mode here. Okay, so the number one tool that you can use to lead yourself. Before we get started, if you are enjoying this content and you want more content, these are ways that you can stay connected. You can stay connected through Facebook and other social media platforms like Instagram and LinkedIn, to where I and others deliver content that will help you be a better leader. And that's really the passion that I have, is how can I help elevate you as a leader so that you can increase your influence and ultimately you can achieve your career aspirations. You can get to where you want to get to, your preferred destination, whatever that is. That this content, things that we create, can serve as a catalyst, an encouragement, a nudge, a challenge to move you in a direction that you really want to go in. And so if you want more content like this, these are ways that you can get more content. And so if you have ever asked yourself these questions, or if you've ever thought this, then you are in the right place. And so if you have ever thought, why do I not have as much influence as I want? Or why, whenever I'm in this situation, working with this team or working with this teammate, it always seems to be friction. And there are things that are slowing me down, or I keep getting feedback from my boss about these areas of my personality that are having a negative impact on my team, or are diminishing my influence that I can have with the people on my team. If you've ever asked yourself, how can I grow my emotional intelligence skills? How can I adapt my behaviors to be able to change the reality that I find myself in? How can I increase my influence so that I can have a broader impact on the people around me and be aware of the things that may be preventing me from being able to do that? So if you've ever asked any of those questions or had any of those thoughts, then today is for you. This is for you, because I think back again, like back to myself as a leader, and the times in my life where I've seen my influence accelerated. It is really in investing in things that we're going to talk about today. And so what I want to do is I want to introduce you to a tool called the Know Yourself to Lead Yourself tool. Know Self to Lead Self tool. So I want to walk you through this tool, explain to you the different components of the tool, how you can use it. And then I'm going to give you 3 examples from my life, 3 examples of this tool in action in my life as I work through it. And hopefully that will stimulate you in the way you think about yourself. And hopefully that will nudge you and encourage you to actually act on this and to spend time thinking about yourself, ultimately as an investment into you, an investment into you with the outcome to be your ability to lead, even though you're not the boss and you find yourself in charge. And so the No Self, Lead Self tool comes from Giant Worldwide. It's a fantastic consulting firm. I came across this several months ago. And like I said, it really become a go-to tool for me personally. And whenever I talk to leaders about them being able to expand their influence. And so I want to walk through the 4 components of this tool and then give you examples in real life of me and how it plays itself out and how I would use a tool like this, hopefully to encourage you to do the same. And so the first is this, is that all of us have tendencies. And so if you think about you have tendencies, I have tendencies. They could be from our personality. They could be from the way we were brought up or experiences that we've had. But over time, we have developed tendencies. And a lot of times these tendencies are things that we may not even be aware of. They may be under the surface, or they may be patterns of behavior that have gone on for so long that we don't even know we're doing it, even though we're doing it. And the reality is I have tendencies and you have tendencies. And over time, what happens is that those tendencies lead to actions. The tendencies manifest themselves in the way that we act. And over time, they become patterns of behavior that we have. Is, for example, like if I'm stressed, if I'm in a stressful situation, then I act a certain way. If I don't get a lot of sleep, then I may act a tendency to act in a certain way. When someone hurts me, or whenever I celebrate, whenever I think about the work that I do, all of us have these tendencies that manifest themselves into actions, which are really patterns of behavior that we have built over time. But here's the deal with our tendencies and our actions, is that they have consequences. There's a consequence on the people around us. There's a consequence on us as an individual. And it could be a positive consequence, or it could be a negative consequence. But there is an outcome of our actions. There is an impact of our actions. There is a consequence for our actions. And the consequences ultimately define the reality that we find ourselves in. And so to walk through this, all of us have tendencies. You have tendencies, I have tendencies. We have patterns of behavior that manifest themselves in actions that result in consequences that ultimately create the reality that we find ourselves in. And so I want you to think for a second of some of the realities that you find yourself in now. Think about the teams that you work on. Think about where you are in your career and your journey up to this point. Think about your relationships outside of work. Think about the reality of those situations right now. And if you were honest with yourself about the brutal facts of the reality and trace yourself back, you would trace it back to there are tendencies that you have that led to actions that ultimately had an outcome or an impact or a consequence that led to the reality that you find yourself in, whether it's the preferred reality or if it's a reality that you would want to change. And so the cool thing about this, and this is really the power of the No Self to Lead Self tool, is that the more we understand about our tendencies, the more we can adapt our actions to create a different outcome or have a different consequence to create a different reality. And so if we find ourselves in a situation at work, a team that we work on, a relationship that we have, a project that we're working on, where we are in our career and how fast we're moving and progressing in our career, if we want to change the outcome, then we can do that. The more we know ourselves, the more we're able to adapt our behavior and our actions to be able to create a reality that we want to create. And that's where the power of this tool comes in. And this is why it's so important. If you want to lead when you're not in charge, you lead me first. And part of leading me first is emotional intelligence, is self-awareness, and then it's being able to be conscious to adapt behavior to get to the outcome that you want to get to, and ultimately be able to increase your influence. And so that's the tool. And at the end of this, I will talk about how you can get a digital workbook, a digital template to be able to work through this yourself, to be able to get more personal clarity. But before we get to that, I want to share with you 3 examples of me. Okay, 3 examples of how I have sat down and used this tool to help me understand me better so that ultimately I can become a better leader. So one tendency that I have is I can tend to get irritated whenever work doesn't move as fast as I want. And so if I'm in a situation at work and the project or the work or the tasks aren't moving as fast as I would want them to move, I can get irritated. And I'm an Enneagram type 3, achievement oriented. I have a tendency to move really, really fast. And I can get irritated if other people I'm working with or the projects that I'm working on aren't moving as fast as I would want them to move. And so what does that look like? Well, that means that I could act in a certain way. I can show my irritation. I can interrupt people. I can step in and do it myself and take over the work because I think I can get it done faster, and I can step in and take it over. But when I do that, when I act that way, there are consequences. People feel a certain way that are working with me. They can feel judged. They can feel like they did something wrong because I stepped in and took over, or they're looking at me and my nonverbals are communicating irritation. They may stop sharing their ideas because they become fearful to try things because they may not meet my expectations or go as fast as I wanted to. They can feel incompetent. I would never want anyone to feel this way, but my tendencies can lead to actions to where unintentionally people can feel this way, and it could create a reality to where my leadership influence is diminished. Performance on my team can slow down. People can not trust me, or trust could be fractured because I am not empowering them and I'm not trusting them to get the work done. And so it creates this environment of reality. And I tell you, I would never want that to be the reality of how people think about me and how people experience me as a leader. And so the cool part of this tool is that I can recognize, okay, I tend to get irritated whenever things don't move as fast as I want them to. And there are indicators that would tell me, Corey, you're starting to get irritated. And whenever I am aware of that, I can now choose a different action. I can choose not to step in and do it myself, but to empower my team. I can choose not to interrupt, but to give people space to create, give people space to apply their own magic and superpower to the work that we're doing. I can be mindful not to demonstrate or show irritation. And so I can change my behavior. Because I know this about myself, I can now adapt my actions to create a different consequence to lead to a reality that I want to create when it comes to me being a leader, and ultimately allow me to expand my influence. So that's one example. Here's another example. And this is the same. I'm Enneagram type 3. I can be very task oriented, task focused. And a lot of times, just as a tendency, I can focus on execution and lose sight of the people doing the work. Now, there's a superpower in that, is that I can get things done. But if I'm not mindful, I can focus so much on execution that I'll lose sight of the people that I'm working with. And so what does that look like? It means that our conversations could always be about the work, that I don't stop to connect to the person. I can be very task oriented, which makes people feel a certain way. People can feel disconnected from me as a leader. People don't feel valued for who they are. Maybe they feel valued for only what they do, not who they are. They think that all I care about and all that's important is the work. So it can create this environment that people feel disconnected from me and disconnected as a team. People can become wary of that and want to look for another team to where they feel like people care about them as a person, as a human, as an individual. People can get burnt out because we're always focused on execution, go, 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 that people burn out. And so if I know this about myself, that means now I can choose to adapt my behavior to connect with people. I can choose to make sure the conversation isn't always about work, but I can build and invest in a relationship bank account with every person on my team, that I can stop and pause and ask questions and connect with the individual and the human on the other side of the video call from me. That ultimately those behaviors now create a different consequence and a new reality, one that I would want to find myself in, that allows me to increase my influence. Okay, here's a third example, last example, and then I'll send you on your way for you to be able to do this exercise yourself. But I have a tendency to communicate fast and direct without listening or absorbing all the information. So to give you an example of this is that I got an email from my middle son's baseball coach. And generally they play 2 baseball games every week, and most of the time it's a Tuesday, Thursday schedule. Well, on a Sunday night, I got this email from my son's baseball coach saying that the schedule for the week had changed. And a lot of times I will not really read the details of the email. I will skim through it. I will try to get the key points of information, and then I move on because I'm moving so fast. And so I read the email, and I thought it said that the games for this week were on Wednesday and Thursday instead of Tuesday, Thursday. It's like, oh, okay, well, hey, Jacob, you don't have a game on Tuesday night. Your Tuesday night game was moved to Wednesday. And we just moved on. And so at Tuesday, and games generally start at 6. On Tuesday around 5:59, I get a text from his coach. And I'm actually out on a run at that time. So I don't even get the text at the time when he sent it. And so I get this text whenever I get back from running saying, hey, is Jacob coming to the baseball game? And I'm thinking, oh no, what did I do? So I went back, read the email thoroughly, and saw that it wasn't the game on Tuesday moving to Wednesday. It was that the game on Thursday was moving to Wednesday. So there was Tuesday, Wednesday games that week. So my son missed his baseball game because I was moving too fast. I was not paying attention to the details, and I missed it. So there was a consequence. He missed his game, and there was reality. He was frustrated because he missed his game because I didn't pay attention. And so I have a tendency to move really fast. And so that may mean I share direct feedback. I move fast. I act before I should. I have so many examples of putting stuff together for my kids where I didn't read the directions all the way and had to do a lot of rework. And so that can create a consequence. I can miss things. I can get too far ahead and have to backtrack and do rework. People can feel misunderstood. It could increase anxiety on the team that I work on. And so the reality is it could create an environment where ideas don't flow or rework is needed. We move slower than we have to. That execution is actually slowed down, that engagement of the people on my team are impacted. And I would never want this to be said about me as a leader or a team I work on. And so because I know this, I can then adapt my behavior to slow down. I can put people around me that encourage me and help me to slow down, to slow down, absorb information, and understand that everybody doesn't view the world the same way that I do. And then I can choose to adapt my actions that create a healthy leadership environment to where everybody is engaged, we're moving at the pace we should be moving at, everybody's contributing, and all of us are increasing our leadership influence. And so that's the Know Self to Lead Yourself tool. So tendencies, actions, consequences, reality. And so now it's your turn. Now it's your turn to spend time investing in yourself to identify what are your tendencies that lead to actions, that lead to consequences, that lead to reality. And some of these may be positive. You want to keep doing them because they're having a positive impact and they're creating the reality that you want. But there will be others to where it's like, I don't really want that reality. And so how do you change the reality? You change your actions and you adapt your behavior. And so now it's your turn to go and to do it. So what I've done is I've created a Know Self to Lead Self digital template. And I'm going to post in the comments of this post here a link for you to be able to download that template. And it's an interactive PDF that you can use to capture information about yourself to help walk you through this Know Self to Lead Self model. And so if it's something that you're interested in, you want to use this tool, then just click on the link and you can get a downloaded version of this PDF digital template for the Know Self to Lead Self tool. Again, if you want more information and content like this, please follow me on these social platforms, stay engaged, contribute, interact with one another, share what you're learning, share your thoughts. But this is a great way to stay connected to a community of people who are like you and to be able to continue to get content that will stimulate you to be a better leader so that you can increase your influence and you can lead. Even though you're not the boss, even though you may not have the title, you can lead even though you're not in charge.